I'd like to call the Tuesday, December 19th, 2017 Papillion City Council meeting to order. Ms. Brown, would you please take the roll?
Florence. Here. Mumgard. Here. Gaines. Glover. Here. Jaworski. Here. Klug. Here. Stubbe. Here. Ingberg.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. And do we have an affidavit of publication on file?
That's correct.
And a current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of the council chambers. Ms. Myers, Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We received a number of concerns relative to Lincoln Street. I think some of you as elected officials have as well. Marty Lemming has reached out directly to OPPD to inquire about the street lighting. We had expected that would begin. We haven't received a response yet. We'll be more active on that. We think maybe that would provide some relief relative to some of the concerns to add some lighting. As City Engineer Jeff Thompson talked about, as some of the other striping will be later, but recognize there's concerns and we'll do what we can to get that resolved. We received over 70 names for the community center. As you know, we did a public process to solicit names. Thank you to all of those who have submitted names for consideration. Those names are currently under review, and we would expect to have a final name to the City Council for consideration sometime in January. The pedestrian bridge continues to be on schedule. We expect a mid-January opening date based on substantial completion. And finally, and most importantly, I will be on vacation beginning tomorrow until Tuesday, January 2nd, but I'll be available if you need me. Otherwise, please contact Amber with any concerns or questions, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Klug. Second by Councilman Stubbe. Do we have any proponents? Any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Next is item D1, Ordinance 1797. An ordinance to approve a change of zone from R2 single-family residential medium density to R3 urban family residential for the property legally described as Lot 278 Walnut Creek Hills, generally located on the southwest corner of 90th Street and Highway 370. The applicant is Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church. Is there a council member that will introduce? I'll introduce. Introduced by Councilwoman Klug. Thank you. Item E1, Ordinance 1794, an ordinance to approve a change of zone from GC General Commercial to O Office for the property legally described as part of Tax Lot 30 of Section 26, Township 14 North, Range 12 East of the 6th PM, Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located on the southwest corner of 72nd Street and Cornhusker Road. The applicant is the City of Papillion, lots 9 through 11, Papillion Business and Technology Park. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing, and do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Item E2, Ordinance 1795, an ordinance to approve a change of zone from AG Agricultural to R1 Single-Family Residential Low Density for the property legally described as Tax Lot 3 of Section 34, Township 14 North, Range 12 East of the 6 PM, Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located at 11204 South 90th Street. The applicant is the City of Papillion. This is a public hearing. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents? Close the public hearing. Item E3, Ordinance 1796, an ordinance to approve the vacation of Shepherd Street right-of-way at the corner of South 114th Street and Shepherd Street. Again, a public hearing, and I'll open the public hearing. Do we have proponents? Do we have any opponents? Close the public hearing. Next is item E4, Ordinance 1799, an ordinance to approve a change of zone from agricultural AG to MU mixed use and R3 urban family residential for the property legally described as part of the west half of the northeast quarter of Section 34, Township 14 North, Range 12 East of the 6 PM, Sarpy County, Nebraska, together with Tax Lot 5, a tax lot located in the east half of the northeast quarter of Section 34, Township 14 North, Range 12 East of the 6 PM, Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located on the northwest corner of Washington Street and Highway 370. The applicant is Royce Enterprises, Inc. This is a public hearing. We have 3 related items on the agenda tonight with this item. The applicant, a little bit ago, did ask that the items be tabled. They've got a couple things they want to work on, but we did publish for public hearings on all 3 items. And so if somebody's here to speak on it, we want to make sure they have the right for that since it was published, but also want to recognize their right to request for it to be tabled. So what I'm going to do, if there's no objection, is ask that the agenda be amended to combine the 3 public hearings into one public hearing. We'll open the public hearing. People are here to speak on it. They can speak on it, and then we'll work with the motion to table if there's no objection to that. Mr. Mumgard.
Oh, yes, I would move to amend the agenda to combine the public hearing on E4, F4, and F5, hold those all together at the public hearing, and then do anything further on them individually.
Okay. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Stube. Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. So the public hearings are combined. I will open the public hearing. And again, just for people that are here, we will also continue the public hearing. So when we act upon this item later, there will still be another opportunity to visit about the item. It's just not tonight, but we do want to respect people might have come out tonight to speak on the item. So I'll open the public hearing and call for proponents on all 3 related items. If you state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Larry Joven, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of Royce Enterprises. With me today is Chip James of Royce Enterprises, also known as Lockwood Development. We have had an opportunity to discuss this project with many of you, and a number of you have expressed concerns about the development, and so we thought we would take the opportunity to lay the item over, all 3 items over, so we can work more closely with staff and you all to address your concerns to the extent we can. And if we can't, we can't. But at this time, we thought it was more prudent to lay the matter over and move forward with trying to work something out that's workable for all of you and for the developer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any other proponents? Do we have any opponents? Anybody want to speak? Yes, sir. Come on up. And then when you get to the podium, if you just state your name for the record. And because we do have a number of people here, and I'm not sure what all they're here for, I do just want to make a general statement on public hearings and speaking. We do have a 5-minute time limit, but I'll give you a warning in about 4 minutes.
I'm originally from the East Coast. I speak fast. Good evening, everyone. My name is Leo Rivard. I lived in Papillion from 1996 to 2003, and we moved to 1105 Locust Avenue in March 2012. We moved back to Papillion. I love Papillion. This is a great town. Okay, and I'm not a great public speaker, so bear with me, and I'm going to try to keep that 5 minutes. Top 10 places to live in America. That's a nice thing to know. And with all the amenities we have here, the way the town is built, the way the town it works, it's really great. I don't believe you should make change just for change or financial gain. Okay, and if you do want to make a change for change or financial gain, okay, you want to keep in with spirit of what Papillion is about. Okay, progress has to be a benefit for the town. I'm from New England. I worked in Boston, Hartford, Connecticut, a lot of big cities, so I understand progress. I understand how things can be built up to make it better and how things can be built up to not make it any better. I was here for the planning board meeting a couple of months ago, and somebody from the planning board mentioned that the new development should be a prominent, visually pleasing entry point into downtown Papillion off of 370. So I'll talk a little bit about some of my areas of concern. You notice I'm not saying no development, okay? Because of the fact that from my perspective, we want a town to move forward, but we want it to move forward the right way for Papillion. So some of the things I had heard, fast food, several fast food restaurants. I know this is going to be addressed by the developers, and hopefully it will. But I don't think it'll make Papillion look different or unique as it is now, but it'll make it look like everybody else. The box stores, they're going to be right off of 370. I know the development mentioned that there's going to be they propose some screens so you won't look down on the tops of the air conditioning vents like you do at Walmart. in Bellevue, which I drive by almost on a daily basis. Even with the screens, that's not, to me, is what I would want to see coming off of 370 onto 84th going into downtown Papillion. I don't think that's visually pleasing. If you want to keep our reputation as being a town that people want to live in. The density and duplication. Yeah, we need more daycare. We need more elderly facilities. We need more apartments as well. I understand that, okay? We've got a lot of stuff already going around here, so this is going to be a lot of duplication, and also the density within that 110 acres. Traffic, I live off of 90th Street, but first of all, I'll talk about 84th, because I know all of us probably went through the development a few years back. We know it's going to be some more of that, and that's part of life. That's part of development. I understand that. But what I did not see is that once you come off, and you know that the amount of traffic is going to increase significantly when it goes north into downtown Papillion, how are you going to manage that extra traffic when the speed limit stops drastically? You know, when it gets down to 35. I think that's an issue that no one has addressed yet, and I think that needs to be. I live off of 90th Street. It's a nice two-little lane, okay? Very bumpy, needs some work, totally agreed. I know they want to make it 3 lanes. But again, from my perspective, the amount of traffic that's going to go through that, I don't think is going to be probably more than what those lanes will handle. They talked about building up to 350 plus apartment units. Okay, and if you looked around the Papillion area, there's been hundreds that have been built. 66 at 370, 96 in Portal. Looking at the average rent, 1 to 3 bedrooms, $795 to $2,006. In order to fill the vacancies of these new apartments, and again, I'd like to hear something from the developer on this, because they didn't give us any numbers. They probably have to rent it a lot lower than that. And from my perspective, we bought our house knowing or understanding this was supposed to be Papillion Commons, where the government, where the buildings, that fell through, understood, but we'd at least like to have something of a little higher quality there, because we haven't heard from anybody the evidence that the quality of buildings they would be building in that 110 acres would really fit the surrounding neighborhoods. I did some checking on the National Multi-Housing Council, and basically 2/3 of the apartments rent in the United States, the income is less than $50,000. I'm not saying people shouldn't get a nice place to live, okay? But from my perspective, if they put the rents too low, I don't think that's a good, I wouldn't want that in my backyard. I don't think any of you would disagree with that.
1 minute.
1 minute, okay. Just a couple of recommendations. I mean, there's sites further to the west that are more suitable, but I understand we're talking about a developer wanting to buy this land. If it's built here, I think there should be more uniqueness for Papillion. Our son is a civil engineer and a patent attorney, and when we showed him the plat, there was a pre-plat, he said it's very boring. Okay, he said it's very boring, and I don't want boring for Papillion. We need more uniqueness. I mentioned maybe a movie theater, some unique restaurants and shops. Now, not looking down on the tops of box stores off of 370. Reduction in the apartment number. Instead of 350, make it 200, make it luxury apartments like we see on every sign, whether they're luxury or not. I would still like some higher rents there. I live off 90th Street. I like to see some protection for those people on 90th Street. Okay, you got a school up the street and stuff like that. Are they going to build some protections behind our homes? Are they going to put some heavy landscaping, big trees along 90th Street? What is the plan for 84th Street north of the development? I mean, from my perspective, I would like Papillion to keep growing. But I want us to grow the Papillion way and not just sell out. And I'm not saying these people aren't doing their jobs. I know they are. Okay? But I want us to do it the Papillion way and look nice for our neighborhood and our town.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other opponents? Yes, sir. And again, if you come up, if you'd state your name for the record.
Well, my name is John Worthman. I live about 2 blocks or block from where this is going to take place. I live in a nice, quiet neighborhood now, and it's a family-oriented neighborhood, and it looks like that's going to change. I don't know about what will happen to my property values either. It's a quiet neighborhood now, and I like it that way. I've been up there 28 years. And having motels within 2 blocks of my house, I saw the old, unless that's changed, I saw your old plan, and there was motels there. I don't know what kind of people we're going to be getting in and out of and around that area. It's where you're taking a nice, quiet neighborhood, and you're going to have a lot of traffic, especially up on 90th Street. The shopping center that was north of us, that closed up. I've heard rumors that there's some over at Shadow Lake that some of those stores are shutting down and closing. So I don't know if we can support another shopping center, and it's going to be busy. I don't like being that close. It's going to change the neighborhood for us. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other opponents? Seeing none, I do want to, there was one gentleman that was here at the last council meeting at the introduction that thought it was the public hearing. And he was out of town this week, so he did send in a letter, specifically asked that the council see that and it be recorded into the minutes. That's at everybody's table, Mr. Frederick Skinner, 1301 Devon Circle, so that is in the minutes as well, and it's available for anybody that wants to see that. Seeing no other opponents, is there a motion to table items F4 and F5, which were the actionable items? Motion by Councilman Glover. Second by Councilwoman Klug. Any council discussion on the motion to table? Mr. Mumgard.
Well, I'll take this opportunity to explain why I think it ought to be tabled, and this is probably for the benefit of anybody. If it's benefit for anybody, it's for the developer. I'll just give you my thoughts. I'm not ready to approve this, and there are several reasons for that. Mostly, I go back several years to when a plan was conceived for that area that I call the Marty Schukert plan, and I've given all the council members a copy of what that was, and that was at that point described as a new civic center, and of course it had an idea of moving city buildings down there. That's not the point. The point that I have is that, well, it was predominantly office. It was going to be people who come to work, spend their day there, and perhaps spend money in Papillion or live in Papillion. But it was predominantly an office area. And I think that is a good idea, that in the long-term vision for Papillion, that area should be predominantly employment in a non-retail type circumstance. This plan has what I see essentially 4 segments: retail, apartments, some senior center, and a hotel, and then some offices. But as I looked at it and listened to people's discussion on it, and I could only conclude that the office area was more of an afterthought to the rest of the plan. I need to see something that's more predominantly office, something that's put aside so that when an employer who has a significant number of employees wants a place here in Papillion, that's where they would choose. I don't have any problem with having residential in with that or anything like that, but it has to be more integrated with the office type atmosphere, because that was, I know I'm deviating from the strict terms of that Marty Schukert plan, but I think this deviates too far from that plan. I understand that there would be a significant city investment here. I don't have any problem with that. I don't have any problem with the city participating in the cost of the sewer. I don't have any problem with that annexation, partial annexation agreement you talked about. I think those are good plans, but if the city's going to participate in those ways, we have to have something that, as the citizen told us earlier, is more special than what I was seeing there. And what I saw was a predominant focus on the retail. And frankly, sure, we can always get more retail here in Papillion. I just looked down the street at about 132nd and Highway 370. We've set aside a significant area for retail. I'm not going to squash competition, but come on, we got to space these out, and I would rather have that go the retail and this 84th and 370 be more of an employment center than what the plan was coming up with. So I'll tell you, what I liked was your senior center in there, your senior living area. I liked the hotel. Not particularly bothered by some of the outlot stuff, but overall it needed to be more of an office complex than what I was seeing. And so I'm going to vote for the tabling, and I hope that if it comes back, it fits more of that view.
Mr. Ingberg.
Well, I've often said that public hearings really aren't for us to speak, but I, like Councilman Mumgard, would like to say a couple things about the development to benefit the developer and also anyone that may have an opinion out in the audience or at home. I, like Tom, recall the new city center or the town center because all those years ago I was really involved in designing that. The thoughts were proper at the time, but times changed, the development changed, which led us to where we are today. The thing about it is, the gentleman that's going to do the development does quality work. There's no doubt about it. If you go out and visit what he's previously constructed, beautiful work. However, this doesn't follow as a gentleman from the East Coast. I'll call the gentleman from the East Coast. I should just replay what he said because that's kind of where I come from. I'd like to see more innovation in this plan. I've always envisioned that corridor to be very pedestrian, and by pedestrian I don't mean you have sidewalks leading from building to building. I'm talking about something that's pedestrian friendly. If you work in an office building there, you shouldn't have to get in your car and drive to the other side of the development to get something to eat. You should be able to walk out of your office building, maybe have a little deli next door or whatever. It should be a true mixed-use development to me is everything's incorporated as a whole. You don't have offices here, you don't have the food places delegated to the outlots, and those kinds of things. It should be have a totality feel. And let's face it, everybody around this table, the mayor and the council, we've always strived to make sure that whatever we do, we preserve the community feel. As the gentleman said earlier when he was up here, that's what makes the place special. Years ago when I first got elected, one of the first things I said was, and I'm going to stand by it to this day, is this city's going to grow no matter what we do. The key to it is we plan it properly so we keep that feel of a community. It can be done. It's been done the last 20 years, especially the last 10. So we can do this. And I think we can still make this work. I like Councilman Mumgard said, I don't have any problem with the senior center. I don't have a problem with the hotel, depending on what hotel it is. I don't think we need I'm not going to mention a brand name because that wouldn't be fair, but we need a more upper level kind of hotel if we're going to have it. My idea with that is that would help a business park, like Tom said, Councilman Mumgard said, where it could be utilized by businesses that are located there. Plus, we do have some need for it. The part that I particularly, the developer knows this because I've mentioned it before, I'm not enamored with having multifamily there. And I know you have to make numbers work to do a development. I understand that. But I also understand my vision has always been if you're going to have any living there, I like to see something that we don't have in our inventory now. We have apartments, we have townhomes, we have different diverse things. But we don't have some things like we don't have any kind of loft kind of residential above retail, let's say. Something you don't see a lot of here, but you do see more of on the East Coast. I like to see some loft kind of inventory for residents, something different. I want the people to continue when they come here to say, oh, you don't see that around here. You don't see any, you need to see some uniqueness. I really want to see this go, but I think we also can work with the developer to try to make it go. And I think we can together do something that not only serves the purpose of the developer, but ours as well. Thank you.
Councilwoman Klug.
Thank you. 84th and 370, in my opinion, will, in the next 20 to 30 years, be the center of Papillion. And so it really does need to be something completely spectacular and fabulous. I've had the opportunity, I drove around and seen what this developer has done in other locations. I think we're on the right foot with the developer. I think there's some remarkable areas in this Omaha metro area that are done right. I just feel like this is the right request from the developer to go back and to have a greater understanding of Papillion's a special place. We want true mixed use there, something that's unique, as Councilman Ingberg said, where you walk out of your apartment and walk downstairs to go to your job. Maybe you can walk within a block to get to the park or a bike trail. It's going to take something more looking to the future. Not what have we done in the past, but what's going to be right for Papillion, so that when we get to 2020, other communities are once again looking and saying, what did Papillion do and why is it working? I think we've got the right people in place that could do this. We now just have to stretch ourselves and really make it happen. So I'm excited for this layover, and I think some great things can come out of it.
Mr. Florence.
You know, first off, I want to acknowledge that Royce Enterprises did take the time to meet with everybody on the council to get input, and I think that's the right way to start a relationship. And I think as we hear from folks that, you know, a couple of people that came up and from council members, you know, we're really talking about vision, and you have a difference in vision of what is expected by the community, by the council for this very important corner of Papillion. And so I have confidence, also having looked at your work, you guys have done some great stuff in Omaha, that we can come up with a project that will satisfy the communities that have been there, mature communities, people who don't want their lives changed but acknowledge that progress is inevitable. It's going to happen. But how we do that is important. And so I think matching up our visions, you know, I think, you know, ideally if you could create a business park, that's ideal. Is it practical? I don't know. That's for you guys to figure out, right? But coming to a place where Papillion's going to be proud of this, not just in the next 5 years or 10 years, but 20 years from now when people go by and they're going to look at this corner and they're going to be like, that is awesome. And I don't think we're there yet.
Any other council discussion? If not, please vote on the motion to table item F4 and F5.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Items are tabled and the public hearing is still open. So again, for the public, at the point that this comes back up, there will be another opportunity to speak on it. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Next is item F1. Resolution R17-0219, a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve a preliminary plat for the property legally described as part of Tax Lot 30 in the northeast quarter of the Section 26, Township 14 North, Range 12 East of the 6 p.m., Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located on the southwest corner of South 72nd Street and Cornhusker Road. The applicant is the City of Papillion, lots 9 through 11, Papillion Business and Technology Park. Again, a public hearing, and I'll open the public hearing. Do we have proponents? Do we have any opponents? Close the public hearing. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution R17-0219? Motion by Councilman Glover, second by Councilman Stube. Any council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item F2, Resolution R17-0220, a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve a preliminary plat for the property legally described as Tax Lot 3, located in the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 34, Township 14 North, Range 12 East of the 6 p.m., Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located at 11204 South 90th Street. The applicant is the City of Papillion. Public hearing, and I'll open it. Is there any proponents? Any opponents? Close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R17-0220? Motion by Councilwoman Klug. Second by Councilman Jaworski. Any council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item F3, Resolution R17-0221. This is a resolution to approve the 2018 trash hauling applications. If there's no objection, we'll handle all of them in one motion. Item A, Abe's Trash Service. Item B, Gretna Sanitation. C, Metro Disposal and Recycling, Inc. D is Premier Waste Solutions. E is Waste Connections of Nebraska, doing business as Papillion Sanitation. F is Waste Management of Nebraska, and G is Waste Services of Nebraska. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R17-0221? Motion by Councilman Ingberg. Second by Councilman Jaworski. Do we have any proponents? I believe all of the applicants are here if there's any questions. we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Ms. Klute.
Thank you. Just a question. We used to do a lot of inspecting of our trucks and that. I was wondering if we have gone through that recently, and could we kind of know what the outcome of that was?
Mr. Thompson. Oh, Ms. Brown.
All of the Department of Transportation certificates for every truck that would be licensed by this resolution were sent to the Fleet Maintenance Department at Public Works, and Mike Grebe inspected all of them and passed them all.
Thank you.
Any other council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Thank you. F4 is tabled. F5 is tabled. Item F6. Resolution R17-0229, a resolution to approve the First Amendment to the Real Estate Exchange Agreement between Prairie Queen LLC, a Nebraska Limited Liability Company, and the City of Papillion. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R17-0229? Motion by Councilman Klug. Second by Councilman Florence. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item F7, Resolution R17-0230, a resolution to approve the real property donation agreement between the City of Papillion and Boyer Young Development Company, a Nebraska corporation. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R17-0230? Motion by Councilman Stube, second by Councilman Glover. Do we have any proponents? Any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Appreciate that. Thank you for the donation. Next, committee reports. I don't believe any committees met in the last 2 weeks. We do have comments from the floor. I see we have a number of students here. If you guys want to come up and share with us who you are and what brings you here. They're all saying no. Not going to force them. All right. Any other comments from the floor? Yes. And when you come to the podium, if you'd state your name for the record, and again, we have 5-minute time limits. And for people, if there's others here for the comments from the floor as well, since comments from the floor is not a published agenda item, whatever you're talking on, there won't be an interaction. The council won't respond to them because it is not a published agenda item, but it is your opportunity to speak for 5 minutes, and it's on the record. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Good evening. I'm Rachel Caraher, a resident of Papillion. I live at 1124 Rawhide Road in Ward 3. And I would like to voice my concern about Ordinance 1798, which redefined ward boundaries. I would like to preface with this statement. I understand that ward boundaries must change as the city grows and develops. However, I do believe that how the local government goes about redrawing those boundary lines and how they inform the public about such an event is incredibly important. I looked at the minutes from the December 5th City Council meeting and found the public hearing option was skipped, and the only notice that redistricting was taking place was in the Papillion Times on November 29th. I do not get the local newspaper, but I do follow the Papillion Times Facebook page along with the City of Papillion Municipal Government and Sarpy County, Nebraska. The agenda for the December 5th meeting was not posted on the City of Papillion page prior to the meeting. The only mention of the redistricting provided on the City of Papillion page was after the decision had been made and focused on the annexation of Cottonwood. It did not openly address the effect it had on other wards. I'm frustrated with the lack of transparency provided by the city government over something as important as city council representation. As city council men and women, I would hope you take your job as the representatives of this community seriously. However, the behavior surrounding the redistricting shows me otherwise. As someone who tries to stay informed on local and national politics, I understand the struggle to get people involved. Where you have failed is in continually striving to educate others on the process. It seems as though you all assumed no one would care that the people who represent them on the city council changed. I find this to be gross oversight of the representation of thousands of Papillion residents. I've lived in Papillion for 4.5 years, and I find it upsetting that the city council would demonstrate such little consideration for basic democracy. I care about who represents me. I am an educated citizen, and this is not what democracy looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the floor?
Speak about the
And again,
ward
if you'd
lines.
state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Taylor King Lehman. I'm just going to set these down. Sorry about that. I have lived in Papillion since 2005 in a house my grandmother has owned since the 70s. I've been a Papillion homeowner since 2014. I live right down the street from Terra Heights. I'm very excited to walk my kids to school in a couple of years when they get old enough. I am here because I love my home and I love my neighborhood and I love my city. One of my favorite things about living in this town like Papillion is the ease of making my voice heard in the local government. I was so disappointed to hear that the ward lines had been finalized without ample opportunity to take into account public opinion. I care very much about who represents me and my fellow constituents on the city council. After all politics are local politics. Redrawing ward lines is not a minor formality. It shapes the impact of my vote and the vote of my neighbors. This is not a decision that should be made abruptly and without the consideration of public opinion. No councilman to approve this decision will receive a vote from me in the future. So I just ask that the council reconsider redrawing these voting lines and the rush that was put on them. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments?
Thank you, guys. I'm going to move this. I am going to try to keep it to 5 minutes. I'm not going to lie, the first time it was 9, so I really have tried to work it down.
And if you state your name for the record.
Good evening, Mayor Black, members of the council. I'm grateful to be standing before you during the public commentary.
Can you state your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Autumn Sky Burns.
Thank you.
It was in there, the next sentence. Sorry. I'm grateful that you're allowing me my opportunity to exercise my First Amendment right in full. My name is Autumn Sky Burns. I'm a resident of Papillion and was a hopeful for city council. The recent ward boundaries affected me. And because these changed my campaign, this has caused a lot of speculation about the timing and the necessity of the ward changes, the manner in which it was done, and it highlights the lack of clear communication and transparency from the city when making these changes. This is the real reason I am here before you. Thankfully, due to the Freedom of Information Act, I was able to trace a timeline for the redistricting. Please allow me to share it so that the people of Papillion can understand. On April 10th, I met with Mayor Black to announce that I was running for city council. I wanted him to understand how important it was for me. In February, I told several of the city council members that I was running and that it was really important to me. On October 18th, Papillion City Administrator Christine Myers identified via email that the city would need MAPPA's assistance on redrawing the wards once the annexation of Cottonwood and its approximately 700 residents was approved, as it appeared to be a tipping point. To note, as of 12/19/17, the city nor MAPPA has been able to provide documentation that this addition forced a mandatory redistricting as defined in Nebraska Statute 193052. On October 31st, Greg Ewell of MAPPA emailed Myers and agrees to provide services and points out that, quote unquote, this is a small population addition, but still anticipates charging the full $1,500 fee. November 6th, Myers asked for completion of the remapping prior to March 31st, 2018, and expressed his desire for completion earlier to the December 5th council meeting for consideration and final approval at January 2nd. November 13th, an email was sent to the entire Papillion City Administrator discussing 3 different scenarios. I quote Greg Ewell, Executive Director at MAPPA. Scenario 1, this scenario follows the adjusted boundaries as provided by the city. I did bring this, and you guys can look at it. It shows what you guys suggested, as well as what they picked, as well as this all section that I live in. Mayor Black, unfortunately, put very publicly that this mapping process was done very independently. No city staff had any input in it. As you can see from the public records request that I have, that is not true. I'm counting out a lot of the timeline because and it'll be available if you'd like to see it. But on November 16th, I had my public launch. I personally invited several of you. Emails were given. November 21st, I actually saw the mayor, and he mentioned you should come to Winter Wonderland. And I'm only telling these because of the ample times there was opportunities to mention, hey, there's redistricting happening. We know you're running. On the November 31st, there was a groundbreaking for the Papillion City Rec Center. I told one of you that I didn't have time to always attend the meetings as a single mom, and you said, you know, just read the agenda meetings and the notes, and like, you'll be fine. You don't have to come to every meeting. Another one of you mentioned to me for about the 4th time that it was really rude to try to take somebody's seat who wasn't ready to retire. On December 1st, the scenarios were available to the public if you clicked on the city council meeting notes inside of the agenda, which we all know nobody does. They weren't published anywhere else. On December 5th, the council votes to waive second and third reading through approving the agenda, and the ward boundaries are pushed through in one night with zero input. On November 6th, I called City Hall and requested a meeting to discuss the ordinances and irregularity of waiving a second and third reading. I was told it was necessary due to statute and, quote unquote, everyone forgot you were running, and it didn't occur to us until after, when we were at the bar, that it might have affected you. Several of you have told me, now that you know the facts, that no one cares. I'm here to tell you I care. I care who my representation is, and I care even more how my city council members conduct business and the nature of their actions as you represent us, the taxpayers. I am disheartened by that you and our city council and city administration fail to grasp the enormity of the situation and your hasty actions.
1 minute.
At best, the action of the city and the council was negligent, and at worst, it was malicious, intent to maintain the status quo. As a tax-paying citizen of the town, I am dismayed by the actions of the council. Your actions speak louder than words, and they are telling me you do not value public input on something as important as representation and the rule of law. I ask that you honor the oath of office you took when you vowed to keep the best interest of Papillion and its people at heart. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments? Again, could you state your name for the record?
Yep, I'm Janelle Simon. I want to start out by saying I love living in Papillion. I'm very proud to live here. I constantly brag to everybody I know how great this place is. I joke that it's bizarre how nice everybody is here, from the teenagers who work at Runza to the works department. But that being said, I have some issues regarding the ward line redrawing that cause concern to me. I feel like without rehashing everything that was just said, I feel like there was a lack of communication all over the place. The public records that are out now showing the map that had basically Autumn's address circled, it's sad that but this was all supposed to be very independent by MAPPA. It just seems like there was a lot more done that wasn't necessarily independent. I could list more, but that just gets redundant and petty. So basically, I am very disappointed in my town, and I don't think all this stuff was coincidental. I don't believe it for a minute. I think it was very calculated. So I basically urge there to be some type of a rule. I don't know if it's possible, but maybe if somebody's lived here 5 years or 10 years, and then the ward lines have to be redrawn, that maybe if it's redrawn within 6 months of an election, like maybe the person should still be able to run. I don't think I don't think somebody can say, I'm gonna live here for 5 years and then, try to run for city council because I know they're gonna, I don't see why that would lead to gerrymandering. So from now, what I can do now, I guess, is I'm educating my children and my friends on both sides, because there's 2 sides to each story. But I will no longer be naive to trust that all the decisions made by my city are done fairly and using the correct process. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments from the floor?
My name is Katie Costello King. My family's been a long-time part of Papillion. My daughter spoke earlier. My father, Tom Costello, was the president of the founding board for Midlands Hospital. He was a business owner and an employer in Papillion for many years. I've always been a proud member of this community and proud of the leadership, proud of the role my father played in that. But I do have to say that this entire situation seems very disappointing. And one of the things that really disappointed me was after the fact, there were questions that were made, and basically the response was, we did what we had to do. And you were hearing from people that were not happy about what took place. And I think it would have been nice to hear, we did what we had to do, but maybe next time we could do better. Maybe we've heard people say, we'd like this on Facebook. Maybe someone could acknowledge that that would be a good step to take in the future. Because the thing of it is I do believe more eyes are are going to be on the council at this point, and that's not a bad thing. I would think everyone would be happy to see people more involved and paying more attention. That's great for our community. But it's also good if our leaders don't just react to what they're hearing, but they also listen and respond in kind. There are people that don't like the way things happened. Things could be done better. I would love to hear very shortly what the leadership thinks could be done better in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the floor?
Hello, my name is Karima Alapsi. I live just south of the Papillion boundaries on 72nd Street. I've lived there since 2009, and I know that I am not technically a resident of Papillion, but I also know that it is very likely in the very near future my area will be annexed by the Papillion City. So that's why I want to register my concern about this entire situation with the ward redistricting, because if you are going to be my representation in the future, I need to know that you will represent me and that you will care what I have to say and that you will care about who my city council person is. I don't know whether there was any malintent in the way the wards were redrawn or whether, as was said earlier, there was a gross oversight, but it was one or the other. I'm sorry, there is no easy explanation for this. There's no excuse. And I hope in the future you will learn from this mistake and act better.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, any council comments? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Sean Mealy. I live at 905 Creighton Road, and I was concerned with the ward district boundaries. However, I was not able to be here on December 5th. Had I known that the second and third reading of it was going to be waived, I would have definitely made a point to be here. I have the same concerns as most of the other people. I'm not going to reiterate them, but I would like to ask that in those cases where you are planning to waive the second and third reading, if you would please put that in the announcements or in your agenda, so someone who is really would like to speak on this has an opportunity. Because had I known you were going to waive those two opportunities of mine, I would have been here. So please, in the future, could you put that in the agenda? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the floor? Yes, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Neil Von Segren. I've lived in Papillion since 2004. Moved here because my daughter and her family live here. Since our retirement, I've taken seriously my responsibility as a citizen and found numerous opportunities to volunteer in Papillion. I've seen how the city has had a great concern about its golf courses. I took part as a volunteer in the city golf courses for the last 8 years, and recently had an opportunity to do the recycling here at both city golf courses. The city was responsive to my request that this be an opportunity for the aluminum and the plastic to be not put into the landfill. And so I thank the City Council for their responsiveness and the leadership and the administration for a well-run city. I did find also my reaction to the redrawing of the ward. It comes within a few blocks of where I live on 716 Aberdeen Drive. I got the feeling after I realized what it might have done to one of our citizens who was seeking office, what might have been the situation had a sitting city council member lived within the framework of those blocks, which would have been necessary or deemed needed to balance out the wards. Would that have been taken into consideration if a council member's position would have been eliminated by redrawing those wards? Notice certainly is important. Transparency is certainly important. So we would appreciate that and the responsibilities of the council in the future, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none. Any comments from council? Seeing none, just a couple of updates from the last couple of weeks. DARE graduations have started, and Mr. Glover, thank you. Spoke at one of them. Chief, thanks for all the work done there. Mr. Sturzma, Ms. Coomer, and myself have met with a couple of developers about a couple of pending projects. We also met with Emmanuel about some expansion plans that they might have and kind of what their future growth is. We also had a meeting regarding the emergency notification system as we start thinking about the snow emergencies. We got some changeover of personnel, so just make sure everybody understands roles and responsibilities, who's watching long-term weather when we might be having an event, who makes the call, and how we get that mass notification out. So just a reiteration of the previous policies. Ms. Myers and I also met with County Commissioner Don Kelly and Sarpy County Administrator Dan Hoynes. Just talked about some general concepts around roads and sewer and some of the larger priorities in the growth areas of Sarpy County and Papillion's jurisdiction. And then several of us also had a meeting with a number of the leadership from Troop 60, which is the American Legion. They are the ones that use the scout cabin in City Park, and they're working on a project to upgrade that. If you've noticed, the foundation's failing a little bit and it's starting to sag, and they want to make sure they preserve that. But since it's on city property and it's also in a floodway, we need to be very careful how we approach that project. So we're going to have a very purposeful partnership to get that rehabbed and protect that structure from a historical perspective and make sure that it can continue with long-term use. Other than that, any other council comments? Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Councilman Glover. Second by Councilwoman Klug. Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
We are adjourned.